I also just to let you know that we're now live. So we are now on the virtual stage and we have an audience. So I can see that you're sharing the presentation, which is good. It seems to be in presentation mode. So for the purpose of the audience, I'll make a quick introduction. So for this session, we have two presenters. We have Glen McCrimmon, who is Vice Chair of CRIN Resource Innovation Network, and Ronald Lee, Vice President of Operations, Voovio. And we also have Christian McDermott from Voovio as well. So it's a joint presentation, and it will focus on reducing your plant's environmental footprint by boosting the reliability of your workforce. So I'll hand it over to you both. I will leave and I'll pop back later. So I'll be in the audience watching. If you need anything, I'll be right there.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Yeah. Welcome to today's session, sponsored by Voovio Technologies. And the discussion will be centered around using knowledge automation to improve your environmental performance. Next chart, Christian. As Mark briefly stated, we, Voovio, are honored to have one of our distinguished customers, Mr. Glen McCrimmon, and he's got over 25 years of experience in the oil and gas industry in various positions, ranging from management to innovation. And so now he's currently Vice Chair of Clean Resource Innovation Network, and he'll say more about his role later on in the presentations. I, Ronald, lead moderator, has over 36 years of manufacturing experience, ranging from plant managers to leading reliability and maintenance for the corporation. And of course, we have Christian McDermott, who's our market coordinator, and he bridges all matters between our North American operations and our European headquarters and operations. Next chart, Christian. So today, the focus for Voovio is on the environmental, competency. We've also give webinars on capacity, operational excellence, training and development, and improving efficiency, and of course, maintenance overhauls. But today, we're going to focus on the environmental space. With this, I'm sharing some data on what is considered the top 5 environmental problems facing industry today, and in no ranking order: permit exceedances, permit violations, Title V deviations, all of which can spell trouble from a compliance standpoint. Excessive flaring of processed gases is very common, and even though flaring is an acceptable practice for safety and maintenance clear-up reasons, just the visibility of flaring kind of signals to your local community that things may not quite be in control and you're in upset conditions. There are also a lot of community issues and perceptions that the emissions that industry is emitting causes some latent health concerns, and that some of the hazardous materials are indeed hazards. There's also this climate impact, and just about everyone in industry is powering some type of net zero carbon reduction or strategy. And of course, changes in regulatory philosophy based on your government makeup. So all of these make it pretty competitive in the manufacturing environment. Next chart, Christian. This is just a quote from 2 different sources, and it speaks of the fact that 50% of incidents occur during equipment startups and shutdowns, and those are human errors for the most part that are preventable. And we'll talk a little bit about how that basically causes environmental issues for the industry. Next chart, Christian. So this chart basically speaks to a fact of knowledge and actionable intelligence. And kind of in a nutshell, we spend, and I'll say I have spent, millions and millions of dollars building in data data predictability, different analysis that can predict the life cycle, the run life, and the performance of a physical asset, a piece of equipment, in other words. But then there is a critical intersection where the asset and the operator are integrated and collaborated, and you need to understand and have both parties being reliable in order to have a good productive outcome. And so whereas we invest a lot on understanding the asset, Voovio has now came in to make this integration much more easy, okay, and productive for the industry. We actually provide capabilities, monitoring, diagnostics, and analytical data, all automated, that speaks to the reliability of the human, of the operator, understanding how competent or what areas they need to grow and develop further. So the combination of reliability is basically twofold: the asset being reliable and the operability or the operator being knowledgeable. And all of this is centered around executing critical and complex procedures. Next chart. So at this point, Christian will share a preview our solution and platform.
Thank you, Ron. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. So we're going to take a look at how you can capture your plant's expertise in a visual and digital format so that operators can master procedures and prevent any accidental releases or other incidents. Since I'm showing you this live, there might be a delay between what I'm showing you and what I say. And what I'm going to show you may appear a little bit jerky, but if you were doing this on your own laptop in person, it would be totally smooth. So first, I'm going to start off with showing you how operators can familiarize themselves with their unit in a digital format here. So I'm walking through a digital replica of a real plant. And operators, for onboarding of new hires or even experienced operators, they're able to walk around and visually look at their real plant and interact with the equipment as well. They're also able to find things, those drain valves or bleeds, and you'll see that the equipment is clearly labeled. So not only can you walk around as I was just doing, but you can stop and look at clearly labeled equipment and actually interact with it. So it is a simulatable environment as well as just being a visual walkthrough. So even experienced operators, you can search for that, those specific valves or pieces of equipment by typing it into a searchable index. So here I'm just typing in an ID number for a drain valve. You can select it and it will take you straight to where that valve is located. And this is the valve that I was looking for. So operators can also use enhanced views to view valve lineups or lockout tagouts. And what I've done here is I've got a complex manifold here. I've activated the flows, and you'll see these green boxes. These represent valves. So if you look on the very right of the screen, I'm going to open and close some of these valves, and you'll see that the flow corresponds to the state of that valve. So you have a real clear view of how to line valves up. What about procedures? So basically, this converts your written operating instructions into a tool that provides total visibility of your actual assets, of your field assets. So this is like a virtual SME, and we call this a simulator. So let me explain what you're looking at. So you have the replica, which I was just showing you here on the right, and below that you have the map. and you have your procedure here on the left. Now, this could be any critical procedure, as Ron said, startups or shutdowns. Above that, we have an action checklist. Now, this action checklist allows us to break every single step of your procedure into individual actions, because you have to execute one action at a time. So you'll see here that I can actually perform the first step, and I physically have to close the first drain valve. And once I've closed it, I confirm, and it moves to the next step. So it's very much like a virtual SME, as I said. We know that procedures are often very generic in nature. So if the procedure says close all the drain valves, but there's 11 of them, we would have 11 separate line items up here in the checklist. So you can do them in the correct sequence, and you will not forget one of them. In addition, we have knowledge snippets. So you'll see this box that appeared, and this is where you can capture that expertise from your senior operators and store it in exactly the right location where it needs to be. In this case, it's a piece of text that tells you why this valve is left open, but it could be a video or some other caution or warning, which will help the operator learning this procedure in that very moment. So as you complete each step, the system will walk you around the unit and guide you through this procedure. So the point here is that operators can learn and practice procedures, things that they normally don't get to practice, such as emergency or unusual situations. And Ron will allude to this later, but environmental data shows that that long reaction times to unusual events can generate higher than permitted emissions. So this allows operators to really practice things 24/7 in this realistic virtual environment. So what about testing someone's knowledge of a procedure? Everything I've shown you so far is, learning that knowledge. But this allows you to test on a procedure. So what I'm going to do here is do the first step correctly. And it was this drain valve, you remember, that I physically have to close. And if you're using a touch screen, you use your finger. And when you confirm, you'll see that I get immediate feedback here on the left. And it tells me I got it correct in the green box here on the left. So what if I make an accidental error? For example, I'm going to crack open this valve and confirm. You'll see I get immediate feedback that it was wrong, and it even tracks which valve I touched, which was the wrong one. Because this is a simulator, you can try again. So I'm going to try this again, and you can correct that error. And you'll see that the system tracks that I had 2 attempts here in the bottom left. So the output of this is basically a documented, detailed test report. And what this allows you to do, this knowledge automation platform, is assign tests to individual operators or groups of operators, and you can track completion as well as access any test reports very easily. So here I can access my test report, and it will show me for this procedure, again, it could be a startup, shutdown procedure, where I've been going wrong and where I've been going right. Indeed, you can also have a snapshot of where your organization is at in terms of the competency of individual procedures. So in this example, we have a procedure performed by Shift A, and on the y-axis, you'll see the number of operators that have completed this, and on the X, the score. So 13 operators got 100%. But on the other end of the spectrum, 3 scored below the passing score, which was 75%. So So those three may need a little bit more attention than the rest. And you can drill down a lot further, and this is getting into that data as well that Ron was alluding to. So this graph shows the step number of the procedure here on the x-axis. So step 4 was incorrectly attempted 3 times on 3 separate occasions. And you may ask yourself why that is. So you can actually open up the simulator and analyze why people may have been getting this step wrong. And in this example, you'll see that we have 2 almost identical valves, and the reports as well as this show that operators were opening the wrong valve here. So that's the intelligence, that's the data that allows you to, take a look at maybe there's an improvement for training or the procedure itself. I want to finish off with what we call the field execution tool, because everything I've been showing you is based on building and measuring competency. But what about when you're in the field and you want to have that visual aid with you so you don't forget that, drain valve or get the right sequence of the procedure? So this would be designed for a tablet. It's a very simple interface. You have the step at the top, and then a picture of where that equipment, piece of equipment is, or that valve is. And you can toggle between the detailed view, so you can clearly see what that looks like, and the pathway view. Once you've completed that step in reality on your tablet or mobile device, you check the check mark and you move to the next step. And again, you can access those knowledge snippets, that critical tribal knowledge as well. The purpose of this is that you have a visual aid in the field, so you will not miss or overlook, a valve that could lead to a loss of process containment, or making another accidental error that could shut the unit down. So with that, I'll pass it back to Ron, who's going to continue to talk about the root causes of some of these environmental compliance issues.
Looks like we lost Ron.
Are we on, Ron, are you on mute?
Maybe while Ron's getting back, Christian, can you touch? Oh, here comes Mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's lost connection, so I'll see if I can track him down.
Okay. So, Glenn, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So we might maybe move through this slide, but this was going to talk about the root causes of some of the environmental performance and compliance issues, which could be related to permit violations, improper lineups, and drilling down to the why, the root causes, which most of the time point to failure to follow procedure, or the procedure not being correct or not being used, or training insufficiencies. But basically, there's a human component. And as you drill down, that is usually at the heart of some of these environmental compliance issues. And the knowledge automation platform can really help solve those human pieces of the puzzle. And of course, we saw the data knowledge that we talked about in the demo, which allows organizations to produce actionable intelligence. So it's really getting more clarity on the human piece in operations as opposed to the physical assets, and allowing you to make to improve the procedures, the training, or other forms of communication. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Glen.
Sure. Thanks, Christian. I'm not seeing your screen now, though. Maybe reshare that, and then I'll get going. Or while you're doing that, I'll just say thank you. And I'm going to build on what Christian was talking about, and Ron before him, around using knowledge automation to improve environmental performance. But before I do that, a little bit about me. Until recently, I was the innovation chief at a fully integrated oil and gas company headquartered in Calgary called Husky Energy. And the recent merger between Husky and Cenovus Energy delivered synergies that led to release of several people from the leadership team, including me. And in my time with Husky, I really did enjoy my role as the innovation chief, and before that as the company's chief geologist. And going forward, looking forward to apply my
Hi, Ron.
Hi, Mark. I don't know why I'm out. I have internet.
Yeah, I think what's happened is we lost you, and as you've rejoined the panel, we've lost Christian and Glen.
Wow. Okay. So nobody is on right now.
No, I believe that we are still live, but just bear with me. I'll just drop out and I'll go find Christian and Glen and ask them to rejoin the panel.
Okay.
Just bear with me. Just a message to the audience, just a technical glitch. Just a technical glitch. It seems like I think Christian and Glen are just backstage at the moment, so hopefully they should come back live in a moment. So apologies to the audience. We now have Christian back with us and Glen back with us, so apologies for the technical glitch, but we have everyone back, so I will hand it back over. Thank you.
Terrific. So where did we leave off, Ron?
Yeah, Glen, I would just continue on with yours and I'll pick up.
Okay, very good. So like I was saying, I guess I was backstage, but I'm the vice chair of the Clean Resource Innovation Network in Calgary, Alberta, and we're a group that's looking at with a vision really of Canada as the global leader in clean hydrocarbons from source to end use. And I'd encourage you all to check out this group. They're called CRIN, Clean Resource Innovation Network, or CRIN for short. And this is a Canadian group, but I would encourage you all to check them out and sign up as a member, because it is free and it gives you access to other members in this network and the LinkedIn theme area sites, which is where everything is happening there. And importantly, CRIN recently received $100 million from the Canadian federal government to run technology challenges and build the clean energy ecosystem in Canada. And then for myself, outside of CRIN, I'm available to help folks connect from the oil and gas industry with potential partners in the digital and clean energy space, and vice versa. And activation of those connections, to realize practical, cost-effective tech applications in the industry is something that I'm personally very passionate about. And so when Voovio asked if I'd be willing to speak with you all today, I jumped at that opportunity to share my views. I was a customer of Voovio in my previous role as the Chief of Innovation at Husky Energy. And although it's early days with the Voovio application there, I can tell you that all levels of management and right down to the field operating staff have embraced the approach and see a lot of value in it. And so as my role as the Chief of Innovation, my motto to get people thinking about experimenting more and the need for change was that different isn't always better, but better is always different, meaning that if you're not open to try new things, you'll never truly improve. So in that light, what I want to touch on today is the following. Number one, a bit about the brutal truth on investment in oil and gas today, a perspective on the impacts that human error have on environmental performance, and thirdly, what's within your control to mitigate human error through quality training and simulation. Next slide, please. So the brutal truth for today's oil and gas sector is that external factors are driving investors away. You don't have to look very hard to see the evidence. Just read any news or current events publications. And the key external factors are the volatility in the commodities, which in turn is fueled by political polarization and demand pressures. And secondly, climate-related concerns. And I read recently that a recent estimate that $14.5 billion of financial community divestitures have occurred to date. And that's a lot of money that could be invested in this industry that isn't being invested and deliberately not being invested. And these things relate directly to the 5 issues that Ron had shown at the very beginning facing industry. And to maintain and attract investment, and arguably to survive, companies have to demonstrate first strict cost competitiveness. You need to keep your costs down. You can't afford any waste, incidents, unplanned downtime. You need to have high levels of operations integrity and efficiency. And that should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. This could include around the mitigating this, embracing digital solutions to identify and eliminating process inefficiencies. And there's been a lot of talk about that at the conference here in the last couple of days. And things like simulation models, including digital twins, that can play a role across all aspects across the full value chain. And just as important, or maybe even more importantly these days, is you need to demonstrate improved sustainability performance. You need to show that you're part of the energy system transformation. You have to reduce your emissions, particularly those related to waste, leaks, spills, etc., and eliminate any human error that might be at the root cause of these. And one option to do so is to adopt technology to enable improved performance of your staff. This may all seem quite daunting, and in many ways it is, but there are things that you have at least some control over. You can control the integrity of your ops, including the clarity of your procedures at your sites and the training of your staff and contractors. And as Ron mentioned before, process safety issues are key contributors to unplanned emissions and other containment losses. And he showed that statement where 50% of incidents during equipment startups and shutdowns have root cause in human factors such as lack of knowledge, incompetency, and inadequate training. So if you unpack all this a bit more, we see that at the root of these are problems that can be addressed by a simple, well-executed, extended reality solution such as what Voovio is offering. So of interest to me is the role of learning in a non-threatening environment versus the often noisy, distracting, and sometimes scary space of live field operations. And I believe that if people can become very familiar with site locations, processes, and procedures in a safer place before entering the field, they'll learn faster and be better able to react to live conditions. Next, please. So my recommendation for you, based on all this, consider the equipment startups and or shutdowns in your business. If they weren't followed correctly and known or understood by operators, might have a dire impact environmentally. Prioritize these, and remember that most incidents are preventable if procedures are understood and followed. And then experiment. Try an enhanced reality application like Voovio. Start with a small proof of concept for one procedure at one facility, The cost and the time commitment is low, but I can promise you that you'll learn something valuable to help you make better decisions going forward. Next slide, please. And so with that, I want to thank you all for listening to this, and apologies for the little technical glitch that pulled us off stage for a moment, but we're back. What did I cover? I talked about the brutal truths around investment, and as an incentive to look for ways to reduce for reducing the frequency of loss of containment type events, a perspective on the root cause of process safety incidents, and a bit about what's within your control to mitigate. I'd like to thank the Voovio folks for inviting me to speak. And I'd like to reiterate that as a customer, we were excited by the Voovio simulation approach. We rolled it out to a refinery for operator rounds, for training for operator rounds, and liked it enough that we were planning to roll it out to other sites. I can't say for sure where the company plans to go with this approach, but I can say that I was impressed with the cost-effective, quick-to-implement solution that was easy for everybody involved to understand and use, and it provided a non-threatening environment for training and ultimately forced us to better document some of our procedures. And interestingly, I note that this effort had an additional unanticipated result, and that is it provided a level of comfort with a digital solution that previously wasn't there. So this application, to my mind, is potentially a gateway to additional experimentation with digital applications for improving processes, workflow efficiencies, et cetera, and getting back to that idea that different isn't always better, but better is always different. And so with that, thanks, and I'll throw it back to Ron and any questions you may all have.
Thank you so much, Glenn, and we appreciate you taking the time to share your experience. The last chart here just shows our contact information, and obviously Christian and myself will take any inquiries about Voovio, and of course Glenn, representing the Clean Resource Innovation Network, his information is there if you want to understand further their mission and strategies. Just a couple questions, common questions. How long does it take to complete a project? And Glenn spoke about the project rollout and execution, but generally it's hard to tell. But if you are simulating the procedures, anywhere from 20 to 50 procedures, you're looking at 16 to 18 weeks. And during those 16 to 18 weeks, that starts from the point we come to the plant, do our photo shoot, and then the 14 weeks to take it back and develop it. Then we deliver to you on the 16 to 18 weeks. So for 14 weeks, everything is basically Voovio implemented and operated, and there is no work required by the customer. Mark, I see you here. That means we're out of time.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we are out of time. I do see a question in the Q&A box. So what I would suggest is, because we will need to start the next session to keep things on time. So what I would suggest to the audience is, Ron and Christian and Glen will be sticking around on the platform. So if you do have any direct questions, obviously the contact details are there. So please feel free to give them a call or drop them an email direct. But also go and visit their virtual booth. Click on the exhibition side on the left-hand side, and you can drop into their booth, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Other than that, once again, apologies for the technical issues. I think you pulled it back around. It was a great session. The audience seemed very engaged. So on that note, I would like to thank Glen, Ronald, and Christian. Thank you very much for taking us through this, and I hope to see you all again in the future.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Yeah.
No worries. Take care. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mark.